Welcome. We're going to look at a little tutorial about how to convert GDP between currencies. So we'll work 3 problems in increasing difficulty level. So we'll start out with a simple 1-to-1 ratio. Alright, so if Argentina has a 1-to-1 exchange rate with the US dollar, the Argentinian peso is worth $1. So if Argentina's GDP is 600 billion pesos, how would you convert that into US dollars? My first step is to set the exchange ratio. So we know that 1 peso equals 1 US dollar. If I wanted to divide both sides by 1 peso, I could do this and I would get, this cancels out, so this is just 1 equals 1 US dollar to 1 peso. And now I can take the second step, which is I've got 600 billion pesos equals how many US dollars. So we go 600 billion pesos and I can simply multiply it by this 1 US dollar, 1 peso, because really I'm just multiplying by 1, right? And the through the magic of algebra, these units canceled out, and now I have 600 billion US dollars, which you already probably suspected because we know we have a 1-to-1 exchange ratio. All right, on to a slightly more difficult one. All right, so the second situation, Argentina no longer decides to fix its peso and it lets it float or adjust to market exchange rates. So now that new ratio is 20-to-1. So for reference, here's what we did before. We took the ratio of pesos, now it's 20 pesos to 1 US dollar. I'm going to divide through both sides by pesos. Right, so we get 1 equals 1 US dollar to 20 pesos, and now we can do step 2. We've got still 600 billion pesos is Argentina's situation, and that's how many US dollars? Well, we can do it with 600 billion pesos to this ratio here, right? 1 US dollar to 20 pesos. That is going to be, we can cancel out the pesos and a 0 here. So 600 divided by 20 is the same as 60 divided by 2. And that's going to be 30 billion US dollars. Step is to take the exchange ratio of dollars to whatever the other currency is. And for the final installment, we've got an even slightly more intense one. So now what do we have? Well, we have a different country. So we've got India with a GDP of 23,000 billion rupees, so that's a little bit confusing. But 23,000 billion just keeps us from doing a bunch of zeros. And it's got a population of 1.1 billion. So already you know that we've got one more step to do here. We've got the exchange rate, which we know how to do, but we also need to figure out the GDP per capita of India, right? So let's do that transformation first. So when you're looking at GDP per capita, you're always looking at GDP divided by population. In this case, we have 23,000 billion and 1.1 billion in population. So those billions we can just basically cancel out. And we've got 23,000 divided by 1.1 billion. And through the magic of my handy dandy calculator, we have 20,909. That is the GDP per capita in India in rupees. So now we need to figure out what the rupee to US dollar conversion is going to be. And again, for reference, so let's go. with 50 rupees equals 1 US dollar, right? Now we can divide both sides by 50 rupees, and now we've got, so this cancels out to 1, right? So 1 equals 1 US dollar to 50 rupees. So now we have the GDP per capita in rupees. We need to take the GDP per capita and change it into US dollars. So we have 20,909 rupees equals how many in US dollars? So we take 20,909 rupees, multiply it by this ratio, which is the same as 1, so it's like multiplying it by 1, times 1 US dollar divided by 50 rupees. In your text, it basically just converted this right into a division problem, but it's basically exactly what I'm doing here. And those rupees cancel out, and we've got 20,909 over 50, and those US dollars are still there. So that's going to be, let's see, 20,909 divided by 50 equals something like 418 per person in India converted to US dollars. So if you were to weigh Indian GDP per capita, each person would be responsible for about $418 under these conditions. Hopefully that is helpful. All right, see ya around.